I want to tell you a story, and I want you to tell me down below if this has happened to you. So it should be about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., right? Where you're disappointed in yourself because you scrolled for the past 4 hours. Maybe you've jerked off a couple of times and you just feel so embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. And so you get this surge of motivation and you're like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to go for a run while it's still dark outside. I'm going to make up for the lack of discipline that I've just had, and I'm going to be disciplined tomorrow. I'm going to take action. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to become disciplined, and I'm going to become this and that. And you start getting really motivated, and you're like, all right, now is my time. You set up the alarm. You set the alarm at 4:50, 4:55, 5, 5:05, 5:10, and so on. And you're really motivated. You start doing some push-ups, and then you close the light, and then you go to bed. 4:50. The alarm goes off. You almost laugh at your past self. You almost laugh at him, thinking, "Yeah, right. There was no way that I'm going to wake up." And suddenly, all the motivation that you had not that long ago, you slept at like 2 a.m., so it was like 3 hours ago. All the motivation that you had 3 hours ago just vanished. And so you take your phone, you disable all the alarms that you've set up, and you go back to sleep. Now you wake up, it's like 2 p.m., and you just feel like shit, and you regret not waking up. Be honest, how many times has this situation happened to you? Be honest. Like, I can't even count how much this has happened to me, because it happened to me so many times. I would get motivated at night, and I would always try to make up for it the next morning by waking up super early or by doing something disciplined. And maybe like once out of every 10 times, miraculously, I would find the inner strength to wake up and go to the gym or something. But most of the time, I'd just snooze. I'd go back to sleep, just laughing at my past self like, yeah, right, you was never going to wake up at that time anyway. And so how would I fix it? Because I've made a lot of progress since then, and for the past month, I've been super disciplined with my sleep schedule, with my goals and everything, and I want to share with you how I did it. The problem is that you're trying to make up for the lack of discipline that you've had, and you're putting too much pressure on your future self. You haven't been disciplined, you've done a bunch of bad habits, and you get really motivated to change, and you want to change overnight, and you want to change too quickly. You put all this pressure on your future self, but the thing is, your future self 3 hours from now is still you. You're still this undisciplined self. You don't have a track record of being disciplined, and you're not used to waking up this early, and you're not used to, doing those hard things, those good habits for you. And so you just crack under the pressure because you're not used to this just yet. Not only that, but you just slept 3 hours. How are you going to find the energy to actually go to the gym, to go for a run, to do the work, to do your homework? How are you going to find the energy on 3 hours? You're not going to take a Monster, you're not going to take a coffee, and you're not going to be, oh, all right, I'm coffee, and then boom, all right. And then you're just going to find the discipline, bang, 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 to be like super disciplined. It's not going to happen, bro. Be realistic. It's not. If you want to lock in, it needs to start the night before. Not the morning, the night. You need to prepare yourself, get enough sleep, so that when the morning comes, you actually have the energy to make a change for yourself. You can't just be a degenerate up until 5 a.m. and wake up at 7 and instantly become disciplined. It's not how it works. It won't happen. It just won't. So if you want to change, it needs to happen the night before. And so everyone talks about morning routines, right? Everyone is like, yeah, David Goggins, wake up at 4 a.m., and Ashton Hall, wake up at 3:30 or whatever time he wakes up. You wake up and then you do your cold shower, bam, and then you go for a run, you go for a 10K run, and then you do this, you do that. Not gonna happen. Everyone talks about morning routines because it's where things happen, right? It's interesting. It's you wake up and then boom, you do this, you don't snooze, and then you feel motivated and everything. But the truth is, you won't be able to do all those things that you want to do if you haven't slept, if you don't have the energy. And so the real grind doesn't start when you wake up, it starts when you go to sleep. And so I want to talk to you about something that I haven't seen anyone talk about, which is fix your night routine first. You know, everyone is like morning routine. Yes, yes, morning routine. I have a morning routine and it's great. I love my morning routine and it's allowed me to become so much more productive. But I wouldn't have been able to become productive and to do all those things if I didn't have a night routine as well. This is when you set yourself up for the next day. You recharge your battery, you get that energy, you let your brain reset, you let your body rest. And then when the morning comes around, you actually have the energy to go attack and win the day. You don't just wake up at 6 a.m. with 1 hour of sleep expecting to go and conquer the world. It's not going to happen. It's just not. So how do you actually implement a good night routine? You know, you probably heard about morning routines, but not much about night routine. You probably heard, oh, cut out screen time, try to go to bed early. You probably have a vague idea, but how do you actually set up a great night routine to set yourself up for the next morning for success? Well, there are a couple of things you can do, and I want to share with you my night routine, and it's nothing really complicated. It really isn't complicated. It's just the whole point is to get you ready to go to bed. You know, you don't need to do all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, it's really simple. If you're expecting something grandiose or a secret of the universe that I'm going to share with you to, you know, increase your sleep by 100% or something like that, you can go ahead and click off this video because that's not how life works. But if you want some realistic advice that you can implement, well, you can hear me out, because I'm about to share with you exactly how I managed to optimize my night routine so I can actually wake up and go conquer the day. You've probably heard the advice, no screen time 1 hour before bed, right? That advice it's true, but it's very generalized. You can use screens even right before going to bed, but it's going to depend what are you doing on your phone, on your screen. When they say cut out screen 1 hour before bed, it's because most people, what they do is they just scroll, and then when bedtime comes around, they close their phone, put it on the table, and they just go to sleep. That's why we say stop screens 1 hour before bed. But if you're planning your day like I am right before bed, you know, you're on Google Calendar and you're planning what are you going to do, and you're doing an activity that's low dopamine, that's not really stimulating, and your phone is on low brightness, and you got the night shift on activated that makes your screen orange, and you're planning your day, or maybe you're reading, that's totally fine because it's not stimulating your brain. In fact, it's helping it calm down. So it's totally fine. You can use screen right before bed, but don't watch porn, don't scroll, don't do anything that's going to stimulate your brain and keep you awake throughout the night and just destroy your sleep. Also, light is something very important. If you have bright lights in your room right before going to bed, it's going to impact your sleep and it's going to keep you up and make it harder for you to go to sleep. So make sure I have some LED lights in my room, in my bedroom, and I like to turn them on red because red is the best color in order to help you fall asleep. If you don't have LED, you can maybe have a lamp, you know, the lamps you have right beside your bed, and hopefully it's not too bright. Just if it's too bright, maybe change the light bulb and put it on something that's low brightness. There was a study showing that overhead lights that are really bright are terrible for sleep. They keep you up, they make it harder for you to go to sleep, and just overall give you worse sleep in general. So make sure that the lights around you, maybe you have blackout curtains, block the light from the outside, and try to keep your bedroom as dimly light as possible, and it's going to improve your sleep way much. Talking about environment, you also want to try to keep your room as cool as possible. I'm not saying it needs to be a freezer, but if it's too hot, you're going to have trouble falling asleep. There are studies that shows that the temperature needs to be about 16 to 18 degrees in order to fall asleep the most optimal way. So maybe open the window, let some fresh air go in. If it's too cold, maybe close it right after, but try to keep the room temperature as low, in between 16 to 18 degrees, in order to fall asleep faster. The last habit that I want you to start implementing as soon as possible is reading. Reading is going to do wonders for your sleep. It not only helps you calm down and unwind from the day, it's also just a good habit that you should already be trying to implement. And it's going to give you kind of this sensation of boredom and calmness that you won't have from using your phone. You know, just spending 15 minutes to 30 minutes reading right before bed puts you to sleep so quickly. There's a massive difference between the days where I don't read and I try to go to sleep. It'll take me way more time to fall asleep than if I just spent the first 30 minutes reading right before bed. And it's like people think that reading is a waste of time because when you're reading, you're not sleeping. But if reading can save you 1 hour, 2 hours of tussling in your bed and trying to calm your thoughts, but you can't because you're thinking too much and you're stimulated and everything. If just reading for like 30 minutes right before bed can save you 2 hours of overthinking in your bed, shouldn't you implement it? I'm sure there are a bunch of studies on the topic, right? I haven't looked at any, but I've experienced it. That when I read, I just fall asleep like this, and it's not even a joke. So if you take one thing from all the tips that I gave you for your night routine, take reading. Read 30 minutes every single night, and you're going to fall asleep in an instant. Right. So I just told you what I do for my night routine. We've went over reading, we've went over the lights, screen time. Try not to do any stimulating activities. And if you do use your phone, make sure it's on low brightness and you have the night shift on. We talked also about cooling your room for an optimal sleeping environment, making sure that the lights are not too bright. If you implement these, your night routine is going to be amazing. And the beautiful thing is, it's going to help you so much in your self-improvement journey and to achieve whatever goal you want to achieve, because you're going to find that once you fix your sleep and finally you wake up and you have energy and the day actually feels like a whole day. It's not like sometimes you only have 10 hours, sometimes you have 14. Instead of having so inconsistent days and you try to make progress, but then you don't have the energy or you don't have the time and everything. Once you fix your sleep schedule and you're able to fall asleep consistently every single night so quickly, you wake up with so much energy and you're motivated, and it's so easy to be disciplined. And I hope that after watching this video, you implement these tips and you start making progress towards your goal, towards your self-improvement journey. And you start becoming the version of you that you've always dreamt of. So no more getting motivated randomly at 3 a.m. and trying to put pressure on yourself. If you want to make progress in life, in your self-improvement journey, in your goals, in your business, in your studies, whatever it is, and you've been in a rut and you haven't been proud of yourself lately, make sure that you start by the night routine. Don't start by the morning routine, start by the night routine, because that's when you set yourself up for the next day, and that's how you actually make the progress. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it valuable. If you want more content like this, make sure you give me a follow, like this video, drop a comment if you have any questions, if you want any advice, and I'll see you in the next one.